Hello viewers, my name is Chase Clover and this is my review on the May 13th, 2015 edition of USW Wednesday Night Intensity. I know, surprise, big surprise, 2 in a row, that's great, first time since like January I believe. But anyway, I'm going to open it up right away. My thoughts on this: it didn't have the strongest card possible, but it was produced in a very professional manner. The announcers were great, the production was on point, and the show was driven out extremely well. And I mean extremely well. Everybody was getting the spots in, and the booking was... it made sense for the most part. Now, here's some pros that I noticed from the intensity. First off, it featured the start of feuding matches going into tap out, which are always great. The match choices made sense for the most part. Some did not, but I will get to that when I get into the review of the actual show. It didn't have the tainted feel to it as last week's Intensity had been, as it was the show after No Remorse. And it was produced very well. It made sense for the most part. However, some cons to it: some of the feuds that were started for Tap Out are repeats of the makeshift feuds we had in No Remorse. It didn't feature the strongest card, even though it did make a lot of sense. And some spots on the card repeated themselves in different forms or types of ways. For example, Simon Saint defeated Gringo via disqualification, and later on Capital and Fernandez's match ended in a disqualification, even though it ended in no contest because the referee was hit by Fernandez without him seeing it. They're called a disqualification. However, both ended in a disqualification, and both, had an interference with some type of either object or person that was not supposed to be involved in the match. But as I said, the show is produced very well. Everything made sense. Well, not everything, but a lot of things made sense. And I might as well just get right into the review. So, the 122nd edition of Intensity. Here we go. We start out the night with Western Light coming down to the ring and cutting a promo on how Dwayne Porter is an obstacle in his way, and everybody knows that when Western Light has an obstacle in his way, he's going to go to any length in order to get past that obstacle. Dwayne Porter walks down to the ring and tells Western Light that if he was an obstacle in his way, then he would not be able to move him, because he is going to stay in place and not allow Western Light past. Carl Reese comes down and tells the two that he wants to make sure that the match at Tap Out for the USW title is unable to be interfered in, and as a result, end in the match being a disqualification or no contest or whatever it may be. So in order to make it fair, he makes the match an I Give match, which is pretty much the equivalent of I Quit match from the WWE. However, you have to say I Give into a microphone, which is, now that I think about it, it's the exact same as the I Quit match in the WWE. So you have to say I Quit in this one, so whatever. At least it gives it a stipulation. I didn't want it to just be the main event at a submission-based pay-per-view being a regular match. And it was pretty expected that it was not going to be a regular match, but however, whatever. The first match on the card we get into is James and Crimson Red. James hit the midway and Red for the win. Titanfall then runs down, and James is not facing him, and he stands behind James as James is celebrating. James then turns around. I apologize. Hold on. I apologize. Okay, I am back. Sorry for the interruption. Titanfall ran down, and James ends up turning around, and as he turns around, he sees Titanfall. James then walks away because he wants nothing to do with him, and Titanfall challenges him to a match at Tap Out, which James accepts. So there's one of the rematch feuds between James and Titanfall that we got at No Remorse that we are going to get at Tap Out. After that was the interview with Cannon. It was a basic, simple promo about the main event and about Tap Out and Dustin Raymond or whatever. And it's it's obvious that we're gonna get a Cannon versus Dustin Raymond match at Tap Out. We'll just see how that goes. We go into the second match, and it is Simon Saint defeating Gringo via disqualification. Yo-Yo Joe ended up running down to the ring and hitting Simon Saint with the Blue Belt title as revenge for the previous week. I believe it was when Simon Saint threw Gringo over the top rope, turned around to run against the rope, and got just smashed in the face with the Blue Belt Championship title by Yo-Yo Joe. And of course, the fans did not like that, and they just started booing out the arena. Not like they didn't leave, but they just started taking over the show with booze. And all the alcohol. But, anyway, afterwards, Dustin Raymond walked out and begged Kyle Reese for a match against Cannon at Tap Out. Reese granted Dustin Raymond's request and makes the match a no-standing match. Once again, simply copied from the WWE Last Man Standing match. The winner is the one to keep his opponent from standing on his feet before the count of 10. So, there you go, no standing match, Cannon and Dustin Raymond at at Tap Out. You got that at you did not get that at No Remorse. This is a new feud, or new match you're gonna get. That's going to be great, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. Let's see. Third match was George Martin with Alex Martin in his corner, defeating DHIG with Rain in his corner. Afterwards, Ezra Hills and Benny Franklin, the tag team champions, appear on the Motiontron and tell the Martin brothers that they will not walk out of Tap Out with the USW Tag Team Championships, and they will make sure of it whenever they possibly can. Whatever. I don't really have a problem with that. It just seemed like a little too basic, or a little too simple for something, to be said by Ezra Hills and Benny Franklin. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Fourth match on the card was TJ, the Extreme Champion, defeating Lane via disqualification. Double XL attacked TJ and caused him to win via disqualification. He then challenged him to a match at Tap Out 2015. TJ accepts and tells Double XL that he will beat him just like he did in No Remorse. XL smiles and walks away, knowing that he just gutted TJ into a match at Tap Out. So there's another rematch you get from No Remorse. And I forgot to add that into the whole ending. TJ or Simon Saint winning via disqualification when somebody interfered, TJ winning by disqualification when somebody interfered, and Capital and Fernandez ending in disqualification because somebody used a weapon to interfere. And I will get into that right now, because the fifth match on the card was Capital versus Fernandez, which ended in a no contest. Fernandez hit the referee with a chair and caused the match to end. The referee never saw it, but since the referee was down by an opponent, he called a disqualification. It was with a weapon. Fernandez then hit Capital with a chair multiple times, and then pretty much just beat him down, smashed the chair over the back of his head, over his back, over his legs, whatever it may be, and just pretty much just tried to just completely destroy Capital and keep him away from whatever he's trying to keep him away from, which, in my opinion, would probably be something along the lines of the Tap Out match. Because I feel like this is setting up for Fernandez, realizing that he can't really beat Capital, so he needs to make sure that Capital cannot make it to the pay-per-view, and that's the only way he could win. So I think that would be a great storyline, a great feud, and I think it would be a great idea in all, when it's all said and done. So, afterwards, Cannon talks to Dwayne Porter about having to team up with him and Alexander Rotten in the main event. Porter and Cannon agree that they will not let the anger get the best of him, and that pretty much means Porter's anger between him and Western Light, and possibly also him and Raymond, and Cannon against Raymond, and also, previous opponent, Western Light. And it's strange because you don't see the World Championship picture in there at any point. So, I guess it's whatever. Sixth match on the card was Chris Ross defeating Philip Akron. This match, when it started, I was like, alright, well, this is just another match. Just gonna be another ending. And, it ended up being a pretty good match. It was probably the best, or the second best match on the entire card. Philip Akron just went absolutely berserk, just kept hitting Chris Ross and kept going at him and kept beating him down. And Chris Ross ended up winning even after kicking out of the acorn and reversing it once. He ended up hitting, I think he ended up getting a roll-up pin or something like that, and won that way. I would have thought, because it went on for about 15 minutes, just under maybe. I would have thought, alright, well, that's too long for a match between these two guys, two tall guys. Even though they are very agile, very gifted in the ring, it still seemed to be just a little bit... It would have seemed to be a little bit bland, but this match was great. And afterwards, Chris Ross went to prove a point against Phil Akron, who ended up fighting back and took Chris Ross out. Kyle Reese then came out and set up a match between Philip Akron and Chris Ross at the next Tap Out pay-per-view. I guess you could have expected that after Chris Ross went back to attack Philip Akron. Excuse me. So, the two tallest guys in USW are going to be fighting at Tap Out. Whoop-de-doo. Bless you. Kyle Reese has been getting a fair amount of showtime, I guess, booking the matches and keeping in order and restoring order. I hope they make that into a storyline or something, where he fails to keep order and the entire roster just goes berserk. That'd be a great storyline. That'd be very interesting. Afterwards, Prophecy walked into Kyle Reese's office and told him that he wanted to have a match with him, or have a match at Tap Out, at the Tap Out pay-per-view. Kyle Reese then went and said, alright, Prophecy, if you can defeat Yo-Yo Joe in a singles match tonight, Prophecy would be entered into a triple threat match for the Blue Belt Championship against Yo-Yo Joe and Simon Saint at Tap Out. The match was made for Prophecy versus Yo-Yo Joe. And afterwards, that followed by the seventh match, Mojo Getter beating BP Fierce. This was a fitting end to the rivalry, because there was no real fitting end. It was just, alright, end the match, somebody beat the shit out of somebody else, and put them out of action, and that's what's gonna happen. So, anyway, Mojo Getter beat him in like 5 minutes. That's all I could have asked for in this match, that it does not go over time. 5 minutes or less, please and thank you. This match should not have gone over 5 minutes anyway, so I'm glad that they went towards their better judgment and made it a shorter match. And that followed by Mojo Getter hitting the Decapitator on BP Fierce and pinning him for the win. And then attacking him again and again and again and again and again and injuring him. That put BP Fierce out of action, so now you don't get any more Mojo Getter versus BP Fierce. That's great. I don't want to see a repeat of that atrocity. So now, I don't know what Mojo Getter is going to do now. I've heard that they're going to try to enter him in the Key and Case match, which should be interesting. I've also heard rumors that Zach Hardy is going to be returning soon, so I think you can go down to his Twitter page. I believe it's at Zachary Serra, which is his Twitter handle. He posted something along the lines of June 24th, 2015, I think Intensity watched me or watched something, and then he put out a code, number code, and then he put out, the code, text language or whatever, and that is what you use to decode the code. So you have a chance to piece together a bunch of the little pieces that he has out. So that should be interesting. I still haven't found out what it is, and I'm still kind of looking. I don't look often. I don't look at the code often, but when I get a chance, I'll try to look around and see what happens. And when I learn something, I'll tell you guys, whatever. But anyway, I guess Mojigat is going to do something else. Hopefully he won't be at the Tab Out pay-per-view, because that's asking for a little much. So, yeah. Afterwards, Prophecy sneak attacked Simon Saint and made sure that he was going to interfere in the match tonight, and use that and make sure that Simon Saint doesn't interfere in the match to keep Prophecy out of his Blue Belt Championship match. So, smart thinking by Prophecy, I guess. It made sense. Simon Saint is a heel, Prophecy is a face. The face wants to make sure the heel doesn't get involved, because then the heel is just... The only reason why the heel would get involved is to keep him out of the championship match and keep it to be one-on-one instead of having a 33% chance of winning when he could have a 50% chance of winning. So, that's what led into the Prophecy versus Yo-Yo Joe match. Prophecy won, he earned a spot in the Blue Belt title match, and Prophecy defeated Yo-Yo Joe by submission. This was one of the best matches on the card, and not just because of the match itself, but because the audience was just going ballistic. There were "you suck dick" chants towards Yo-Yo Joe. There were "fuck you" chants to Yo-Yo Joe. There were "let's go Prophecy, let's go" chants towards Prophecy. There were Simon saying "fuck you, Simon" chants going on, pretty much directing at Simon Saint. There were "get off the top rope" by Yo-Yo Joe, or for Yo-Yo Joe. And at one point, Yo-Yo Joe ended up raising the middle finger to them, which was what caused a giant crowd and ovation of boos going through the roof. And Prophecy, on the other hand, was feeding off the crowd. This is something that a veteran does. This is what you do to get a reaction out of the crowd. What he ended up doing was, when Yo-Yo Joe was on the ground, he would point to him, get the crowd to react, and then he would do that kind of Hulk Hogan hand to the ear thing against all four sides of the ring, with all sides of the ropes, trying to get a reaction from all sides of the crowd, and it was awesome. Prophecy, this just shows that if Prophecy is used right, he can get the fans on his side, and he can be a great performer. And I don't doubt he can be a great performer. This really proved it today, though. So, I'm happy. Prophecy won. Simon Saint ended up attacking both of them afterwards and sealing the Blue Belt title. But either way, the fans ended up just booing Simon Saint and Yo-Yo Joe out of the roof, even after Yo-Yo Joe had lost and Simon Saint attacked them. But that was a great match. Great reaction. This crowd was amazing. So, anyway, afterwards we had an interview with Alexander Rotten. He just talked about the match that was coming up next, which was the 9th match and the main event, which was Wayne Porter, Alexander Rotten, and Cannon defeating Western Light, Seth, and Dustin Raymond. The commentary was great. This was one of the best matches on the card. Dustin Raymond was probably in the match for the most amount of time. He started off the match, got beat down a little bit, kind of came back, and I think Seth was in the match for the least amount of time, only getting tagged in towards the end. It was great. The commentators, even for people who I guess just tuned in, didn't know what was going on, didn't know if Western Light was heel or not, didn't really get the whole gist of it, they ended up over and over and over again, they would say, oh, well, Western Light, because Dwayne Porter and Seth would try to do these heel tactics where they would attack the guys, or they would sneak and punch them, or they would interfere themselves in the match when they're not tagged in. Western Light wouldn't do that, and they kept saying, well, remember, Western Light is not one of them. He does not want to be one of them. He's only on their team because his opponent for Tab Out is on the opposite team. So a 4-on-2 is a little one-sided. And then they reference the Zach Hardy and Morbid versus Cannon, Mojigata, Western Light, and Dustin Raymond handicap match from March. So it was just great. Western Light ended up tagging in Seth, I believe, who ended up fighting down Dwayne Porter. I think he got Dwayne Porter down at one point, and the whole ending of the match was when Seth went to the top rope. He went to perform the Oblivion. He was in mid-air when Western Light pulled him down, and Seth bounced off of the ring. And it was bad. It was bad. He ended up bashing his entire body into, just his entire front of his body into the canvas. And I believe his face ended up bouncing straight off the canvas as well, which is probably why he was bleeding. But anyway, afterwards, Dwayne Porter hit a DDT, went to the top rope, and hit the porthole on Seth and covered him for the win. So Western Light used the heel tactics on the heels as a face, and that was something that, it was a really great twist, I'm going to tell you that. And Western Light ended up causing Seth to lose the match for his team. And Western Light didn't really care, because he didn't want to be in the team in the first place. But he ended up helping out, he ended up helping out the faces defeat the heels. B, he ended up helping out his opponent at Tap Out, Dwayne Porter. And C, this is probably going to have something going on next week when Seth tries to get revenge against Western Light, or something like that. So, that's what ended up happening, and afterwards, the show ended with a stare down between Dwayne Porter and Western Light with the USW Championship in the middle of them. Great way to end the show, great way, great production and everything like that. It was awesome. I'm going to say that. So, yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Thank you for watching. That was my review on the May 13th, 2015 edition of USW Wednesday Night Intensity. Remember to like, favorite, and subscribe for more. I'm Chase Clover, signing off.